Welcome everyone, and thank you for turning out tonight. I'm Peggy Dellinger, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters in the Township of Ocean. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that started almost 100 years ago by the same women who were fighting to get the vote. Once we got the vote, they organized in order to get women informed and energized and voting and running for office. And we're basically carrying on that same theme, but now it's everyone, and men and women are welcome to join the League. And it's our mission to defend democracy and empower voters. And one of the critical ways we do that, we've been registering voters at a record pace. We just had a count this morning. In the last 2 weeks, we've done over 400 just in our local area. So there's an interest in our democracy unprecedented in my lifetime. And that's somewhat represented by your being here tonight as well. So the League, one of the things that the League does is register voters in a nonpartisan way, meaning we never support a party, we never support a candidate. So you can come to us to get the straight scoop without the party or the specific candidate bias in any of our information. And then once we've registered voters, there are two more important jobs. One is to educate them, and the next one is to get them out on November 6th to vote, right? And so the second step is what we're at tonight. So we're here for the Township of Ocean Board of Education Candidates Forum, and we'll begin that in just a minute. I want to point out to you that it's being videotaped, and the videotape will be ready in short order, right, Tom? In short order, and it will be able to be seen on Ocean TV and also through our website, which is League of Women Voters Township-of-Ocean.org, LWVTO.org. And you don't have to remember it because you're all sitting on a card that has the URL right on it, right? And it's not only the videotape of this evening that you'll be able to see there, but everything you could ever want to know about voting and about government in general is on this website, including critical links, one stop. You can go here and get a critical link to, am I registered, where do I vote, anything you want to know. While I'm at business cards, let me point out the other business cards you're sitting on, and that's vote411.org. And it is an online, nonpartisan voter guide. The user puts in his or her address, and up pops information specific to the ballot that voter will be seeing. And I want to acknowledge our Board of Ed candidates who were all invited to participate, and they have, I believe, with possibly one exception, answered all of the questions, and you can look at them and their responses on Vote 411. But it's from the top of the ballot right down to our Board of Ed. So everything that you need to know before you go into the polls, you can get by checking this website out. Just want to say tomorrow is the deadline for registering to vote. I would bet the mortgage that there isn't anybody in this room who isn't registered to vote, but just in case, please do it discreetly before you leave, and we'll deliver it to Freehold for you tomorrow so that we make it under the deadline. There's also been a lot of confusion in this voting election cycle about the vote by mail process. I don't know if you've been aware of that, but if any of you have received or not received or have questions about how does this work or some concerns, we also are available after the forum to answer your questions. We just want to remind every voter that for whatever reason, if you go to the polls and you are told that you cannot cast a vote on the machine, perhaps because you've received a vote by mail application or ballot that you didn't expect, or for whatever reason, if you believe that you have the right to vote, you ask for a provisional ballot. That is your right. And if you have any questions about that, please stop by the table and we'll talk to you about that too. I just want to also point out that we've been really busy. So in addition to this forum, on Thursday night we have a forum out at Brookdale on the 4th Congressional District. There are flyers on the table with all the details at Brookdale, 7 o'clock on Thursday night. And then next Wednesday, the 24th of October, there's a Monmouth County Freeholders Candidates Forum, and that's at the library headquarters in Manalapan. I think that's all the business I have. That's not what you came to hear. So we're going to turn this over to our moderator. I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Ann Torrey. She's a member of the Greater Red Bank Area League. And that's significant because one of the rules that we have in League is that we never have someone moderate a candidates forum who could vote in the election for the candidates who are there. So to ensure impartiality and fairness, we bring someone from outside our voting district, and we were very lucky that Ann was available. She is an extremely competent and driving force behind a lot of the work that's been going on in Monmouth County in the area of voter service and voter registration. She's a trained and experienced moderator, and she happens to have served on her own Board of Education. So she's got all the right stuff for tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ann and to the candidates, just with a thank you for your willingness to serve our community and for running for office, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you so much, Peggy, for that introduction. As Peggy said, my name is Ann Torrey. I'm your moderator tonight. I'm a member of the Greater Red Bank League of Women Voters. And I'm here as a representative of the League of Women Voters, which, just to reiterate, we are a nonpartisan organization dedicated to, a little closer to this, strengthening democracy by protecting the right to vote and by educating and engaging voters. And tonight, that's what it's all about. We're here to do just that, to educate you, the voters, and to engage you in the upcoming Board of Education election. So thank you all for being here, and thanks too for the candidates for participating. Before I introduce the candidates, I want to just go over our format and ground rules. If you've been to other debate forums, I don't want to call it a debate, you're probably familiar, but just in case. First, the candidates will each give a 1-minute opening statement. We've drawn lots for the random order. Then we'll move on to questions. All the questions are to be written and will be posed by me, the moderator. Index cards are available to write down questions if you're still thinking of questions. There are people circulating the audience. I think they're high school students, and can you raise your hands? Thank you for helping out. We're so glad to have you tonight. Just raise your hand in your seats. They'll collect your question and bring it up. I'll be selecting questions only to avoid redundancy and to make sure we cover all the important issues and to make sure we finish sometime before midnight. Just kidding. We're going to be out of here by 9 or maybe sooner. Each candidate, questions can be addressed to a specific candidate if you choose, and that candidate will then answer first, but then all the other candidates will have a chance to respond. To the candidates, if you don't want to respond to a question, you don't have to. You can just, tell me that you're passing. Let's see, then candidates will have 90 seconds to answer the questions. Timekeeper is sitting in the front row. We have 2. They'll hold up a yellow sign that says 30 seconds when you have 30 seconds left, and a red sign that says stop. We ask you to just try and wrap up your sentence if you're in the middle of a sentence when it says stop. That goes for the opening statements and closing statements too, of course. Then after, when we've exhausted the questions, or more likely exhausted our time, we'll have your closing statements. Again, those are done in random order, which we decided before the forum. So I'll call on each of you to do those. Ground rules for everybody, and particularly in the audience. The obvious one, please silence your cell phones. We ask that you not take any photos, the audience, or make recordings. I know we have a gentleman from the press. Yeah, he'll be taking photos, but we'd really prefer that everyone else not do that. We ask you to hold any applause to the end of the evening. We've got to keep moving. We have 9 candidates in total, 7 here. So we want to hear from them, so we ask you to hold your applause and certainly any comments. We're going to stick to issues, no personal attacks or questions. I don't anticipate that that's a problem. So on November 6th, you will be electing 3 Board of Ed members for full terms. That's a 3-year term, full term, 3 members out of 7 candidates who are sitting up here. And you will be electing 1 member for a 1-year unexpired term, and there are 2 people running for that term. So now, without further talk from me, I will introduce the candidates. They're seated in alphabetical order. So first we have Catherine DeFilia running for a 3-year term, Janice Fuller, 3-year term, Irene Gilman, 3-year term, Michael Palutis, 3-year term, Denise Parlamas, 3-year term, Scott Pausiello, 3-year term. So those, we have 1 additional candidate, Harvey Jacob, who had a medical issue. He cannot be here tonight. We have 2 candidates running for the 1-year unexpired terms. Those include Natalie Tortoriello, who is here, and Luigi, better known, I guess, as Gino Dell'Omo, who cannot be here for the start of the forum. He is trying to get here. If he gets here in time, we will seat him. But I have his opening statement to read after the candidates give their opening statements. So we will begin then the first opening statement. And if anybody is having trouble hearing, just please indicate. I'm trying to concentrate on the microphone, and you'll have to, I guess, share microphones a little bit. The first opening statement will be from Ms. Gilman, Irene Gilman.
Good evening, friends and fellow Ocean Township residents. I'm Irene Gilman. I've lived at 122 Franklin Avenue in Oakhurst for the last 40 years. My husband and I raised our family in Ocean after graduating from Monmouth College, and we have deep ties to the community. I was a teacher in the Ocean Township High School English department for 38 years, retiring in 2016. Before Ocean, I taught in Brielle and Charleston, South Carolina, for a total of 44 years in education. My business is educating young people. My career has been dedicated to educating young people. Education has been my life and my passion. With all due respect to the current Board of Ed members for their service, currently there's not 1 board member or candidate who can attest to 44 years of public school teaching experience. It's time to add the voice of an educator to the Board of Ed, and it's my intention to be that voice for everyone in the Ocean community. Some members that I would address, okay. I didn't realize that, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. The second opening statement is from Denise Parlamas.
Good evening. My name is Denise Parlamas, and I'm an incumbent running for a 3-year term for the Board of Education. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me here this evening. I truly appreciate this opportunity. I've served on the board for the past 17 years, held the office of president and vice president 3 times, and chaired various committees. I am truly passionate, not only about our school district, but Ocean Township in general. Born and raised here, my commitment to this town goes very deep. But I must say that my devotion truly rests within the school district. I am a daughter of a teacher who taught me the greatest gift anyone can possess is that of a strong education. I truly believe in the Ocean Township School District, but I also believe that although many vast improvements were made over the past 17 years, there is still much to be done. Thank you all for supporting me in the past, and I hope to continue to work hard for all of you and all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. The next opening statement is Michael Palutis.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's debate and for everyone attending. I'm Michael Flutist. I'm the president of the Township of Ocean Board of Education. My wife Nancy and I have 3 children who currently attend Ocean schools. I hold a bachelor's degree from King's College and an MBA from Regis University. I'm a federal employee with 20 years experience in accounting and contracting. I'm a proud veteran of the United States Army. In the wake of September 11th, I deployed to Bosnia, where I served as a captain. I'm a member and advocate for disabled American veterans. I'm a former trustee for St. Mary's Church in Deal. I also volunteer for numerous township sports teams. I was fortunate enough to be appointed to an unexpired term in March 2015 and elected by the voters of Ocean in November 2015. I've had the honor and pleasure to serve as the chair of the Planning and Construction Committee during the referendum project. As chair, we completed all building projects on time, below budget, and without concessions. I am dedicated to ensuring that the right decisions are being made for the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Natalie Tortorello, sorry.
Hello. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Natalie Tortorello. I'm a candidate for the one-year unexpired term on the board. My husband Mark and I live in Wayside with our 2 children, Dante, who is 7, and Cecilia, who is 4. I hold a master's in organizational psychology and have devoted my entire career to education and nonprofits. My areas of expertise include curriculum and policy development, contract negotiation, and grant writing. Currently, I am the Chief Operating Officer of Our House, Inc., a nonprofit agency where I am responsible for a $15 million budget. Locally, I'm the treasurer of the Wayside PTA and have served on numerous nonprofit boards. Our school system is excellent, but we are still faced with big challenges. I'm running for the board because I believe that we need to put more into our communities than we take from them. My skill set will be an asset to the board. I will advocate for proactive policies and relevant curriculum. With my kids just starting in the district, I will be a new voice, promoting communication, accountability, and transparency among all stakeholders.
Thank you. Next opening statement from Catherine DeFilia.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. I'm Catherine DeFilia. Many of you may know me as Lexi. My husband Ed and I moved to Wanamass with our 2 kids who both attend Ocean schools. Anthony's in 5th grade and Isabella goes to Wanamass in the 2nd grade. I've been a special education and elementary teacher, musician, and advocate of children with emotional disabilities for over 15 years. I am also a parent of a child with special emotional needs. Currently, I'm a small business owner, bringing my passions together through piano education. Leaving the classroom was difficult, but it was time to follow a dream. I also believe in service and feel called to serve the community on a broader scale. I decided to run for the board because as a parent, I see a need for increased transparent communication and community involvement. As a new member to the board, I would bring a fresh perspective to the table with my unique skill set.
Thank you. And finally, last but not least, we'll hear from Scott Posiello. I'm sorry?
You forgot me.
Oh my God. So I've thrown off the order.
I can go last.
All right. Scott, and then we'll go to Janice Fuller. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Hello, my name is Scott Posiello, and I'm running for the 3-year term position on the Board of Education. Thank you all for coming here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself and discuss my candidacy. My wife and I are residents of Oakhurst, and we have 2 preschool-aged children who will soon be attending Ocean schools. I hold a degree in elementary education and political science from Rider University. Currently, I am a middle school social studies teacher and special education teacher at Avon by the Sea. For 13 years, my career has been devoted to educating children. I will bring that same devotion, passion, and dedication to the Board of Education. I look forward to meeting community members over the next few weeks to listen to their concerns so that we can work together to put students first. A few issues I am passionate about include school safety and security, mandatory mental health first aid training for all intermediate and high school staff, providing a curriculum that includes 21st century skills, increased parental involvement and communication, and meeting the needs of our special education students and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Janice, and thank you for your understanding. Janice Fuller.
No problem at all. Thank you very much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this evening. I'm Janice Fuller, and I'm running for a 3-year term. I currently serve on the board, having been appointed last September to a vacancy. My husband John and I chose to buy our home in Ocean because of its tremendous sense of community and successful, diverse, thriving schools. We've now lived here for over 6 years. I have a daughter at the intermediate school, a son at Wayside, and a daughter who will start there next year. I've spent most of my career working in government, and I currently serve as a chief of staff to a member of Congress. I've managed staff of over 100 employees and multi-million-dollar budgets. However, most importantly, I've seen through my work the importance of public service, and I've witnessed the positive impact that government at all levels can have on the lives of residents. The Board of Education members have a unique responsibility of overseeing the policies for the youth of our community who do not have a direct voice in the selection of their elected representatives, but who are most directly impacted. I bring to the board a unique combination of experience. I have a degree in education, work with all levels of government, and have a perspective of a parent in the district with an understanding of the need for sound policies that will shape the future of the district to serve our community today and decades to come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We'll begin now with questions. We'll start with Catherine DeFilia. She'll get the answer first, and we'll go down the row, and then we'll switch up the order for the next question. First question is, what areas do you see as our township's educational strong points and weaknesses? Ms. DeFilia?
I think that there are so many things that are strong about our school district. I moved here specifically for the school district. I think that the sense of community that exists within each individual school is something that's really special as compared to other schools in the area and also around the state. I do think that there are some pieces that we can work on. There's always room for improvement. And if we work together to identify some of those key issues, safety in schools is a big one right now. That's not only just the physical safety, but also the emotional safety of our children. And as the board, defining policies that address both of those issues. I also think that transportation is important, making sure that the routes to and from school, whether they're on the bus or they're walking, needs to be the absolute safest for our children. Teacher training in terms of special education, the needs for special ed are rising, and so are the costs. And we need to be mindful of that, and making sure we're giving our children who need the support, everything that we can, and making sure our teachers are feeling supported in the classroom and have the training they need to handle anything that comes at them and give any child the absolute best education that they deserve.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fuller, would you like to respond?
Sure, thank you very much. So in terms of our strength, I think such a strength of our community is obviously its incredible diversity, but also the dedicated staff of teachers and administrators who are on the front lines every day in our classrooms serving our students. So I think that those are obviously tremendous strengths that we have. But in terms of weaknesses or challenges that we face, I think one of the largest challenges that we in any district face is that of funding. We're an incredibly successful school district and want to keep progressing forward and making improvements and trying new things, but with that comes the burden of paying for all those things. And with school funding being cut from the state year after year, we're confronted with incredibly difficult choices in our budget process, and I think that will be a challenge that faces us going forward so that we can continue to balance the priorities of our district, but also making our town and continuing to keep our town as affordable as possible for its residents.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman?
As a senior citizen on a fixed income, of course my worry is taxes and loss of funding. But I would not like to see our high quality of excellence for the Big Red schools cut in any way. And that includes outsourcing of any positions for our most vulnerable students. I see many positive areas in this town. It's why we've chosen to stay here for 40 years. The sense of community, the strength of the staff members. Ocean Township will always be known for that. Technology is a concern. It's both friend and foe. Our cell phone policy needs a revisit. It can be used in terms of bullying. It can also be used in terms of creativity and connectivity to the World Wide Web. So I would be very resourceful in helping to monitor such a committee that deals with the safe use of technology. Mental health is so important for our staff and for our students. I would say we need more resources and awareness brought to both staff and students about mental health awareness. These are some of the areas that, of course, concern not only senior citizens on a fixed income like myself, but concern the staff and students for everybody in Ocean. So I would like to establish certain committees, work with the Board of Education to make sure that our technology is going in the right direction, that perhaps our cell phone policy might be reined in a bit, since our students all have access to computers.
Thank you. Mr. Flutist?
Thank you. You know, one of our greatest strengths in our district is our elementary schools. We have 3 unique schools that represent all areas of town. We do that through pre-K to 4th grade, and what we do in those elementary schools as far as education and technology is unbelievable. You know, we have a growing population that does not know a world without technology. We integrate it so greatly in the elementary schools, everything they're doing in their Google Classrooms, their videos, their assignments. Children just, they don't know a world without it. And we have a one-to-one initiative in the district now. Every student has a Chromebook from kindergarten to graduating seniors. And then once we get into 6th grade, we bring them home. We just cannot not have our children have technology, and we have a great staff that's adapted to that and integrated into the full spectrum of the classroom. Things that need improvement, funding. You know, we can always use more funding. You know, we're all taxpayers on the Board of Education. We always have a difficult time with the budget, what we cut, what we don't cut, and how we fund everything. We try to balance everything we can, try to keep every teacher we can within the district, and we're always very resourceful on everything we have. Anything that's outdated, we try to sell, but certain things we cannot fund without. Buses, we have to redo buses every 15 years. Special education needs are state mandated. What percentage of that? We cannot cut anything on those. So funding, we can always use more of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parlamas?
Well, most of you who know me know that I was born and raised here, and Ocean Township is known for its strong sense of community. That is definitely one of our strengths. Another one of our strengths, and it was true when I was a student here in Ocean, our teachers, our staff. We have the best staff in New Jersey. Our teachers are caring, they're motivated, they care about our students, and it's a very rare quality to find such a district with such a strong staff. Some of our weaknesses, of course, are security. It is something that we currently are looking into, and we want to continue to do more to increase our security. Another thing is, although we've come a long way with our grants and our shared services, we need to do more in that area to help our taxpayers out. I too have a mother who's on a fixed income and can't afford to stay in Ocean Township anymore, and we just need to be able to do more to provide for our senior citizen population, as well as many families who can't afford to stay here as well. Another thing that we need to work on a little bit is mental health awareness in the schools, in our community. I think it's something that's growing, and it's very important that we recognize the importance of mental health, and we need to educate our students, we need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate our teachers. And the last thing is, it's important to me that our students, that's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Quasiello.
Some of the strengths of the district that I can attest to is I worked for 1 year at the intermediate school, and it was truly one of the greatest experiences of my 13-year career. Part of the reason I feel that way is the strength of our staff. I think some of the best professionals I've ever had the joy of working with are within this district. We also have students, a student body there's a kindness and a joy that they bring. When I was in 5th grade, it was an amazing experience for me. And those are things that I think are really focal points to what go on here in Ocean. As other people mentioned, the sense of community is something that's special here. It's really what drew my wife and I to live here, and we have enjoyed living here very much. Some of the weaknesses, similar to other candidates who mentioned, I think a major issue in our school district is still bullying. Bullying causes real pain to our children. Moreover, I think as a group we need to focus, especially with the younger grades, on what bullying really is and what constitutes bullying. Increased school security. This is something that is paramount to most people within the district. I think the addition of Class 3 officers is a great idea, and something that, while I wish it wasn't needed, I think the reality of life in 2018 precipitates that. Other things that I'm passionate about that I think we need to improve upon are training middle school and high school staff in suicide prevention and mental health awareness, so that we can be proactive in preventing a tragedy from occurring here in Ocean Township. And lastly, our children should be taught 21st century skills. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Tortorello.
So regarding strengths with the district, when my husband and I moved here from Union County, one of the things that struck us was the number of people that stayed here after graduating from the Ocean School. So I think that's a testament. People feel that they had a good education and they want to raise their children in this community. That's a big strength, and again, a testament to the community. A lot of my colleagues have mentioned, the ongoing sense of community, and specifically at the elementary schools. That's my experience so far, is at the elementary schools, and I can say that as a working parent, I'm welcome there. There's an opportunity for me, there's a place for me on the PTA, there's a place for me to volunteer. I have friends in other towns that don't have that experience. I have heard that there's a drop-off with that going into the middle school, that communication does drop, and as a board member, that's something I would focus on, ensuring that we are still communicating. Our 5th and 6th graders are vulnerable, and we need to make sure that parents, school teachers, and district personnel are all on the same page. Again, a few people mentioned mental health awareness, suicide prevention. We all hear the stories in the news, and it's something that we need to be better about. We need to be proactive and not wait for the next tragedy to occur. I too am concerned about the unlimited tech policy with cell phones at the high school. I don't think that's a smart policy. It's something we need to revisit, as well as the Chromebooks. We need a balance with technology.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Fuller. What unique experiences or qualifications will you bring to the Board of Education that will make you different from the other people running or already serving?
Thank you. I think a few things. As I mentioned in my opening, I did study education. I never actually was able to teach in the classroom, but I did study education, so it was a passion of mine what I decided to pursue in college. But since then, I have worked on many levels of government, state and federal mostly. I've worked for the federal government for the past 9.5 years. And I do have an understanding of how government works, how government operates. I also have extensive experience managing budgets, understanding every day what it means to make difficult decisions and priorities in budgeting, and sometimes you have to choose between very valuable things, and understanding that decisions do need to be made. So I think those combination of skills are unique to the board and would give me a unique perspective, and have given me a unique perspective and a new voice on the board for the past year. And also, again, that I have 3 young children. Again, a daughter at the middle school and a son at Wayside, and a daughter who's not starting until next year. So I have a commitment to the district as a parent as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman?
44 years in the classroom. But I want to talk for a minute about special ed. I was one of the first teachers to work with the collaborative program of including all students in the classroom, the regular ed classroom. It has been a wonderful experience to work with the special ed teachers, to modify curriculums, to make sure everybody felt included. I can bring that talent and perspective to the Board of Ed. I've served on every committee imaginable. I've revamped the curriculum year after year. I've served on the Educational Council, Professional Development Council, liaison, negotiations. I've done all of those things in my years of service. Uniqueness, I'm also a senior citizen on a fixed income. So, of course, I'd like to be fiscally responsible. And tax-weary students, tax-weary residents know that they'd like to stay in town but are being driven out. I would also say that being a resident for 44 years, I've had the pleasure of seeing many of my students now grown with children of their own in town, and I'd like to be able to serve on the Board of Education to continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Flutist?
Thank you. The unique experience I have, I've been on the Board of Education since March 2015. I have a business background. I have 20 years experience in accounting and contracting. The number of contracts that we do for the Board of Education is enormous. We help our business administrator determine how we're going to spend those tax dollars and spend those tax dollars wisely. I also have my school business administrator certificate, which gives me a unique perspective when we go to the board meetings on Tuesday, to be able to help our business administrator relate those problems that he handles every day to the rest of the board. And currently, I'm a parent. I'm a parent of 3 young children that are in the district right now, and I'm also a stakeholder. I'm a taxpayer also. Every dollar that we allocate for the budget, every time we have to increase the budget, it's a very difficult call. How do we balance it? And it's not easy. We spent 3 hard months going through the budget line by line. We're here till midnight sometimes in this very room, going at it, trying to figure out what's the best way to balance the budget. So the uniqueness I have is my experience on the board, my years of experience in contracting, and I want to continue doing that for the next 3 years for the Ocean Township taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Barlamas?
Yes, I have a degree in journalism and nutrition from Rutgers University. I spent a great part of, before I had children, working for a computer graphics company in the marketing department, so I have offered some marketing strategies, especially in the advertising area. But most importantly, I think it's because I'm the longest standing board member. I feel that I offer a sense of stability to the board, where there's a lot of change and a lot of movement as far as the board members go. And I think that a balance is needed in order to stabilize all the change that goes on, and to ensure that academic standards do remain high. I also have served on many, many committees in town, including I was president of the PTAs at the elementary school, Ocean Township Elementary, including Ocean Township Intermediate for a total of 8 years. So I've spent a lot of time working with teachers and with parents, and I really learned a lot from being in the school and working with everyone. I also consider myself to be very approachable. I know people can come up and talk to me, and I'm a great listener, and you can tell me anything you want and I will listen to you, and I would say that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pasiello?
In my experience as a teacher, I've found that communication and transparency are key to maintaining any relationship. This is something that I strive to do on a day-to-day basis in my classroom. It's also something that I've cultivated in regards to relationships with parents, students, and other people who I meet. Listening to concerns and understanding different people's perspectives is certainly something that I'm proud of and something that I think I bring to the table. I also, similar to other people have mentioned here, as a taxpayer, parent, and teacher, I can understand the different perspectives or the different needs of those different community members. And I think it's important to listen to what each person has to say in order to come up with a plan together that we can achieve the most we can. I believe strongly in fighting for the best education for each child. In regards to our special education program, that's something that I would like to see continue to be important in our district, and to continue to see funding go to special education, as that's something that I am certainly passionate about. Also having a vision, a shared vision where we can bring that to fruition, and also have high expectations for student achievement, but also high expectations for the board and high expectations for our town in general.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tortorello?
So I've been a professional for about 20 years now, and my career has been 2 big chunks. One, I spent about 15 years working for a $100 million private tutoring company, and I did a lot of unique jobs there, including writing park questions when the park first came out, so I have a very intimate knowledge of that exam. I was the head of communication for that agency for quite some time, so I've honed my skills at communicating, both written and oral. I also led many task forces with franchise owners, executives, parents, and students, so I'm very adept at listening to feedback from various parties and taking all of those viewpoints into consideration. Another role that I had during that tenure was attending IEP meetings as an advocate for students. I had an opportunity to attend schools all across the state, including those in inner cities where they didn't have playgrounds, to some of the wealthiest schools around the state. So I have a unique perspective on the different types of educational models that are here in New Jersey. The second leg of my career has been in nonprofits. As I mentioned, I'm the COO of a nonprofit. We serve 300 individuals with developmental disabilities. We also have over 300 staff. I'm solely responsible for the development and the implementation of the $15 million budget for that agency. I'm really good at budgets. I understand them, and I understand how to find money when it appears there is none. I've also...
Thank you. Now I'm going to give all of you a little breather. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Fuller.
Thank you. So I'm a teacher. My entire career has been dedicated to my students, who are more extensions of my family. I consider them my own children when they're in my classroom. and I remain close with their families long after they're in my classroom. I'm very invested in their success, especially because many of them are children who have special needs. I have a degree in elementary education, music, and a master's in special ed, and that I would bring that to the table. The majority of my teaching has not been in the public sector, it's been in the private. I've taught in hospitals, in psychiatric wards, I've worked in residential schools for children with emotional disabilities. The kids who don't find success in a public school, those are the kids that I've worked with. And I've seen how important it is to have those supports in place before it gets to the extreme points where I've been working with these kids. These are children who have been pushed out, and we have the capacity to help them through that. I also believe very, very strongly in transparent communication as a teacher, as a parent, and as someone who has worked also a little bit in administration and managed budgets. It's important to have all of the information and invite people to the table. If you don't see people there, call them, get them there, and make sure people are involved in their community. It's so incredibly important, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll give you a little break. I neglected earlier to read the statement of Gino Dell'Olmo, who was not able to be here but did submit a statement. So this is, he is Luigi Dell'Olmo, I think he's known as Gino, and he's running for the one-year unexpired term. My name is Gino Dell'Olmo, and I'm running for the Board of Education in Ocean. I wear many hats: a husband, a father of 2 children in the school system, a proud lifelong resident of Ocean. Professionally, I'm the owner of Jersey Gas on Sunset and a general sales manager of Shrewsbury Volkswagen. I'm also a member of the Italian American Association of Ocean and a former member of the Wanamassa Fire Company. The role that's closest to my heart is that of philanthropist and advocate for Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I feel that is where I do my best work, helping to positively affect the lives of children. We should make sure our children are in a safe and secure environment that fosters learning. Bullying is one subject I will look into to ensure the programs we have in place are working and request reforms in areas of concern. I feel strongly about our special needs population. I would review what we currently have in place to ensure proper staffing to accommodate the needs of these students. I was very vocal on the issue of school bus cameras. The board approved the cameras, and we now have cameras on all buses in the district. We're going to give the absent Mr. Dell'Olmo a little extra. We lost Lock Harbor, which cost us $2.1 million annually. The state cut funding in the amount of $607,000. I will review all aspects of the budget to work towards a deal that is best for students, staff, and teachers. Please take all of these issues into consideration when voting on November 6th. If elected, I pledge to do what is best for the community, staff, and most importantly, the students of Ocean Township. I kindly ask for your vote for Better Schools Together. Remember to vote for Gino Dell'Olmo. Thank you. Thank you. And that was from Gino Dell'Olmo, who's running for the unexpired term. Okay, back to questions for the candidates who are here, and we'll begin with Ms. Gilman. Taxes are a hot topic in Ocean. What will you do to control the school budget while ensuring a quality education over the next few years?
I've seen my taxes double in the years that I've been here in Ocean, and it's kind of a mixed bag because on the one hand we have an extraordinary school system of which I was a part and like to think that I helped contribute to that extraordinary school system. On the other hand, now on a fixed income, I have to think, am I going to be able to stay in town? Am I going to be able to stay in my house? There's waste. I've seen it from the inside. There are things that we can do to change. While everything was done to improve many of the schools, our enrollment is way down. We've seen an exodus of our students to private and charter schools. So now we're soliciting tuition-paying students to make up for that and to compete. Many years ago, I warned my supervisor and the administration that we should begin in 5th grade to toot our own horn and tell students Ocean is the place to be and not to have to go out of district for a prime education. So these are some of the things that I would hope to do to cut waste, to encourage more students to stay in the district rather than go to the charter and private schools.
Thank you. Mr. Flutist.
Thank you. For the tax question, our budget every year is $80 million. That's what the budget for the Township of Ocean School District is. Over 85% of that budget is salaries and benefits. Can't touch that to start the budget at all. Once we bring in fixed costs such as heating, maintenance, electrical for the schools, we're up over 90% of the budget. That's untouchable. You take in the cost for buses and special education costs, state mandated costs, that's untouchable also. We're there looking at it, trying to reallocate money as best we can. We have a number of shared services with our school districts. We have a number of shared services with the township. We have a number of shared services with the county. We started a new committee, myself and my vice president, Ms. Parlamas, with the council. We meet monthly with the council. We try to discuss other areas for shared services, what we can do. Like we sing Fruto, we're talking about rock stuff, shared vehicles, shared services for everything we can, because we're all Ocean Township taxpayers. We're going to pay one way or another. We might as well work together on that. When we crack open the budget, it's very difficult. What we're trying to look for, doing. We do a great job with solar energy. We had to make a large investment in solar energy. We're starting to reap those benefits now by selling back those credits to electrical companies. We have almost all our roofs in the school district with solar panels. We're always looking to do other things. More of the shared services we do. With the school district, we clean all the buildings for the township, all the buildings, and they cut all the lawns and the maintenance for us at the school district. We're going to continue working that. We're all taxpayers here. We're all feeling the pain. Thank you. I got to stop.
Thank you. Ms. Parlamas.
Well, funding has seen a huge decline since 2009 for our district, and even remaining flat for approximately 6. We receive less state aid today than we did 20 years ago. So our board has been very active in looking at different ways to help this problem within our school district. As Mr. Flutist mentioned, our shared services, we are looking for shared services with other schools, with our municipality, and with other municipalities as well. In addition to that, we have been applying for grants more and more every year. Recently, we have been approved, and we are in the works with the academy, which is, we are allowed to have the academy structure at our high school because of a $500,000 grant that we did receive from the state. Currently, we are in year 2 of that grant. We have 3 more years to go. In addition, we have received the New Jersey Jets Eat Right, Move More grant last year for our intermediate school, which was approximately $20,000. The generator grant, which brought us in about $55,000. In addition, this year we've applied for a computer science grant for about $100,000. So we're constantly looking at grants. We've spoken to our council about it. We're looking to acquire 2 grants from them and to see if we can earn more money that way. In addition, we have cooperative purchases with utilities for natural gas and transportation. Monmouth and Ocean County Shared Services entered an insurance fund.
It is a big topic, I know. Thanks. On to Mr. Porciello.
Similar to everybody else here, my taxes have gone up over the past few years. When our home was reassessed, it obviously went up fairly substantially. So I think we're presented with an interesting problem, which is our taxes go up, yet the funding from the state goes down, and we are left in a situation where we have to make difficult decisions as to what we want to keep and what we want to put at the forefront, and things that may be needed to be altered or changed. I think it's important to use tax dollars wisely, making sure that anything that is spent on non-necessary items will be evaluated and made sure that it's something that we want to continue with. Also, we want to provide the best for our children, but the reality is that we have to couple that with the concerns of older people in our town who don't have children in the district anymore. So I think with those concerns, it's important for us to really keep our focus on what we need, what we can get in regards to grants. I've written grants before. It can be a difficult process, but there are seemingly hundreds or thousands of grants that are there, that are available to us, and applying to as many of them as humanly possible, I think will benefit the district overall. That will make up a fairly small percentage of what we need, but along the same lines, that will help. and I think that's something that we can focus our attentions on going into the future.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Torello?
Again, echoing the sentiment, as a taxpayer, the growing taxes are a concern. But we want to sustain the excellent school system. That's why many of us move here, and that's why many of us stay here. I was at Fall Fest on Saturday, and I had 2 individuals come up to me and say, no, I don't really care who's running for the board. I don't have kids in the school. And I said, but you should care because your taxes are going to the schools, and these are the people making the decisions. And that got me thinking about outreach. We have several senior communities in the town, or 55 and over. My mom lives in one. She doesn't like when we say senior. So I think we need to look at how can we reach out to those communities to help them understand the budget and what it's going for. The comment about 85 or 90% of the budget going to salary and benefits. Our community members, whether they have kids in the schools or not, should understand those line items, understand where the dollars are going. We all live here because we want a nice town. And our graduates are individuals who, again, they often stay here or they come back here, so we want well-educated kids. They become productive citizens. They become the citizen to give back. They become the citizen to sit up here and run for public office in town. So it's a balance, it's a trade-off, and I think it comes back to transparency and helping the community at large understand where their dollars are going.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fuller?
Well, I don't know anybody who would say, yay, my taxes are going up. I'm certainly not one of them, but I understand that it's important in terms of, really creating that bridge from the fact that we have lost a significant amount of funding and we don't want our services to go down for our students, and we want the quality of the education that we are providing to only improve. Unfortunately, that costs money. I think that the board has already done a great job in looking at alternative solutions. That certainly has to continue, and it needs to increase. We've talked about, they have the new committee going to the town council. The town council broadcasts their meetings. We could broadcast our budget presentations, and so that more citizens of town, whether you're able to go to the meetings or not, are able to see and hear what's going on. The more people know, the more voices can come to the table who can offer different solutions. And I believe that that transparent communicative piece is really, really critical. And I think that as we discuss the shared services with the towns and other school districts, that is something that really needs to stay a priority, and it needs to increase as well. There's, as others have said too, there's money hiding in places. We just need to go out and find it.
Thank you. Ms. Fuller.
Thank you. It is certainly a concern that weighs on us with every decision that we make as board members. But I do think, I've spent just 1 year on the board so far, and I do think that we should all begin thinking about the budget more as the board as a year-long process. We start the budget conversations typically after the new year, but I think having that be more of a year-round process, year-long conversation, engaging stakeholders throughout the year, talking about our priorities, the decisions we're going to have to make so that people better understand the decisions that we have to make. We're usually choosing between 2 good things at all times. If this were choosing between something good and something bad, it wouldn't be so difficult. But at the same time, I do believe that you get what you pay for, right? So we want to maintain our quality schools. We want to make sure that our children are receiving the best education possible. And we want to make sure that we are providing our teachers with the resources that they need in order to succeed. So we have to always balance that as well. My colleagues have talked about different things that we're doing with shared services, and we should continue to do that. And we have to continue our conversations with our state representatives. We have received some significant cuts from state funding, and so we should engage them in the process of helping us find alternate sources of funding that can help bridge some of that gap, not only this year, but the cuts that we know that are coming in the out years as well. So we need to engage them in that process as well.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Gilman.
I think I started.
Did you start this? Okay. So we will start this. We won't give you another turn. Then the next question begins with Mr. Flutist. It's been approved that we will have armed police officers in all schools. I understand this will take 2 to 3 years to hire police officers. How do you feel about having police officers in our schools?
That's a great question. It's a very difficult one too. Unfortunately, when we had the tragedy in Parkland, Florida, I was on the phone with Dr. Stefankowitz, Chief Peters, and Mayor Siciliano. We were all shocked by this, and we tried to step back, take a break. Let's not have a knee-jerk reaction to this because everybody was up in arms. We need metal detectors. We need to do this, and we all need to collect a decision. We're not going to turn our schools into prisons. Unfortunately, there was another tragedy the next month, and there was another one the next month. Every monthly meeting, we had a moment of silence here, which is unfortunate. We began our conversations, myself and Mrs. Parlamas, with Chief Peters in the Township about Class 3 officers and how it's implemented, what it really is, how we phase it into the school, is it right for us? We went on every topic, from arming teachers, arming our current security folks, to what does Class 3 officers actually do and what they can and cannot do with the Township students. So we went and entered into a memorandum of agreement with it, and one thing that Chief Peters was adamant about, we're not just hiring bodies, we're hiring the right fit for the right school, for the right student body. And it's been a little bit of a slow process. It's a cooperative agreement with the Township Police Department, our administrators, and our principals. We have rolled out one Class 3 officer for the high school. We'll be starting in the next few weeks after training. We're interviewing now for the intermediate school. We felt it was the best decision to have a uniformed police officer that will look like an Ocean Township police officer, have Class 3, but have limited police powers in the school district. We were not going to arm our own security folks. We wanted to have training with the Chief of Police being the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the Township.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Parlamas?
Yes, when the whole discussion of Class 3 officers came around, I was not sold on it. I have to be perfectly honest with you. It took me a while to listen to all the conversations from Chief Peters to our community, our parents who came to speak to us at various board meetings, our teachers, the board in general. And I began to think to myself that what we really need to do is to perhaps start some evidence-based curricula at the elementary level and really start teaching our kids about mental health and about bullying and to maybe stop this problem before it gets to the epidemic that it is today. But then I realized that that's going to take time. And we need people in our schools now. This is going on all over our country, and just because it's not going on in Ocean Township, it doesn't mean that it can't happen to our schools. So I am all on board right now. I'm can't wait till we can fill the position in every school in our district. And I think it's a great way to start, and it's a great way to begin the security initiative.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pausiello?
I'll be honest, I don't love the idea of Class 3 officers being, or armed personnel being in schools, but I think the reality of the education system and also the year 2018 is that there is a need for them to be there. I think one of the things in regards to school safety is not arming teachers. I think that is an idea that I would be strongly opposed to. Not that that's necessarily on the table, but that's something that's been mentioned in the past and certainly should be mentioned as something I wouldn't support. Every student needs to feel safe in school, as do their teachers and any people within the building. I think one of the things that's important if we are going the route of Class 3 officers, which I support, is to make sure that this is a professional law enforcement official who can cultivate a strong relationship with the students in the building so that there isn't any natural fear that students would have of somebody with a gun within the building, but that would be a trusted member of the school community and somebody that they could rely on and say good morning to each morning and know that they're a part of their life and a positive part of their life. Also, as I've mentioned before, suicide prevention and mental health issues, that way should be at the forefront. That way we're catching students before they fall, identifying students who may be exhibiting some behavior that would lead to something drastic or something tragic in the future. And I think focusing on that can provide us all with a better feeling in regards to the safety of schools and making sure that our students are taken care of and shown love and that they are safe throughout their school day.
Thank you. Ms. Tortorella?
I also am not 100% sold on the Class 3 officers. I think that they are a necessary evil, but I really don't love the concept of my children going to school with an armed guard. We saw in Parkland that that's not the only answer. They don't always work. In Parkland, the armed guards ran away. Certainly it could cut down on response time in certain active shooter situations, but we cannot stop there. I know at Wayside Elementary, we recently implemented new procedures for Project Extend, before care and after care. It used to be the doors were open, and thanks to parent feedback, that policy is now changed, and you have to dial a phone number, someone has to come and let you in to either drop off or pick up a child. I think something like that is a very proactive approach and can help alleviate a situation from ever even happening. Certainly addressing mental health and bullying is something that needs to be done. Study after study after study has shown that bullying leads to depression, loneliness, absenteeism, and when you look at the typical shooter that we've seen in these situations, it fits the mold. They were often bullied, they were often not given the resources that they needed for mental health. So while we have the reactive solution, God forbid there is a situation, we also need to hit it on the other end and be proactive and give our students the skills they need to navigate uncomfortable and difficult situations.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fuller?
Thank you. My concern with this whole situation is that this Parkland was the biggest one that happened last year, but I remember when Columbine happened, I was a kid. And I remember, asking my parents, like, what is happening? How do you get to that point? I had no idea the way the world worked. I was like 10 years old. And I mean, fast forward, now we have the schools that are staples in our heads, Sandy Hook, Parkland, all of these. It's unacceptable that this is a problem in our community, but the truth is that it is. And I think that the Class 3 officers is a step in the right direction to ensure that there is a chance that if something happened, they would be in the right place at the right time. But we don't have that guarantee. And as stated prior, there is the other piece of it in the why this is happening. Something happens to that person or has happened for a very long time that gets them to the point where they're going to do something like that. It's not like you wake up for breakfast one morning and you skip the meal and then you go to an elementary school. We have to really be seriously thinking about what we as a community can do for every single child and every single teacher and every single administrator to prepare them for whatever might come their way. Mental health is such a crisis in this country and it really needs to be addressed. And I think that we as the board can implement policies that are proactive, that get the kids thinking positively, understanding how to help these children from an early age to hopefully prevent in the future.
Thank you. And Ms. Fuller?
Thank you. I think we all need to start with Parkland or Sandy Hook. This goes back to Columbine and before, as we all know. And I think one of the most difficult conversations I had with my own children is when that they have seen the news, right? You can't hide the news from children. And my own children have said, are you sure this isn't going to happen where I go to school? And then after we cast this vote, and my daughter saw in the paper saying, do you think we need a police officer there because you think it's going to happen here? And having to explain to her that this was just one step that we were taking because we think it will help make them a little bit safer, but it's only part of it. This was a difficult decision for me. I think anyone who was here for the conversation knew that it was something that I thought we needed to hear from our community about. It wasn't something that we could decide quickly. And also that if we were going to move in this direction, that if it was the right thing to do, it was the right thing to do for all of our schools, not just some of our schools. But I think it's part of the process. We're going to have a district security council to continue these conversations. Like everyone said already, we need to talk about the why of it and provide resources to our students and talk about why these things are happening and identify students who might need assistance. We have the new staff who's starting at the high school and all of our counselors in our other schools. But also, we also have to know that once these officers start, that's not the end of the conversation. Our teachers need to understand their role there, they need to understand their role there, and we need to make sure that everyone's properly trained. We need to make sure that we're taking into account the needs of our special needs population and making sure that that's being accounted for as well. It's just the start of a conversation. This is just one step in the process.
Ms. Gilman?
Security officers in school. Parkland, there was an armed guard at Parkland. He did absolutely nothing to prevent the shooting. I think that it makes us feel better to think that we are doing something by placing an armed guard in the schools. Instead, I believe it sends the wrong message to young people that they are in a place that is unsafe. I think we need to take a different approach. I was involved with a program called Peer Resolution, where students were trained along with teachers to help resolve some of the minor problems that were occurring. And that included bullying, where students would sit down in a room without the presence of adults and kind of hash things out with a mediator. And yes, that seems kind of elementary, but you'd be surprised how often they were able to resolve conflicts themselves without the interference of adults who were always there to help, should that be the case. We had DARE officers in our schools that were supposed to help cut down on the use of drugs. Not a very successful program. So it's hard for students to cultivate a relationship with a person that's carrying around a weapon. We need to get to the root of the mental health issue, the bullying, the use of cell phones that are used for the bullying, and address the needs of students who feel marginalized for whatever reason.
Thank you. Okay, everyone has had a chance to address that, yes. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Karlanis. How does a board attract and retain quality teachers?
Well, first of all, it starts with a great district. I think that everyone that I've spoken to wants to work in Ocean Township. I know when people find out that I'm on the Board of Education, they ask me, well, I'm a teacher, how do I get a job there? I do know, and I have to give a shout out to our administration because they do find and hire the best teachers that are out there. And I said that before, and I will keep saying it until I'm no longer on the board and after. We have high expectations here. We look for teachers that are exceptional, that think outside the box, that go above and beyond, and I feel that our staff here does do that. We have a strong academic district. Our focus is on student-centered learning. Technology is on the rise. We are constantly looking for more and more programs for our kids to make them future ready. And I believe that all this attracts some of the best teachers around, and I feel that Ocean Township has that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pausiello.
I think the way to attract and retain quality teachers starts with respect, respecting our educators and listening, most importantly, listening to their perspectives. I think oftentimes as a teacher, I have felt that my opinion wasn't important and that my opinion didn't play a role in the decisions that were made that ultimately affected me. Part of that really comes from listening to the concerns of teachers. I've spoken with teachers in the district over the past few weeks and even years, and for teachers, it's getting more and more difficult to couple the fact that benefits are increasing while pay largely remains stagnant or slightly goes up. So this kind of offsets anything, and oftentimes teachers are living without a raise or without a quality of life improvement for quite some time. So as a teacher myself, I know that being listened to and that if my opinion is valued is a huge step in the right direction to retaining good teachers. And as I said, a fair benefits and salary package, the quality of life of teachers is important, and I think the more respect that they're shown and the more appreciation that we show for them will go a long way in retaining the best and making sure that our district is strong going into the future.
Thank you. Ms. Tortorello.
My experience so far with Ocean Township teachers has been phenomenal. My son has an IEP, and I've gotten nothing but support from all three of his teachers so far. I think a big way to retain teachers, I don't think we have a problem hiring teachers. This is a district people want to work in. To retain teachers, we need to give them autonomy. We need to allow them to work what works in their classroom. They are with kids every day. They talk to parents every day. Whether it's different now. There's email, there's texting. I know people who text with their students, teachers every day. So we need to give them autonomy for that classroom management, to implement curriculum in a way that they see fit. My son had one classroom with flexible seating, and that worked. That was the way that she was able to help manage 22 kindergartners. We need to respect them, to listen to them, And we need to go where they are. Teachers are in school every day, all day, and they may not have the opportunity to attend every board meeting. So as a board member, we should be going to them. We should be popping in the schools, touching base with them, showing up at their events, showing up for Teacher Appreciation Week, and again, letting them know that we listen to them and we hear them and we respect them. And I think that's the same for the administration and us as board members. Listening, that's the key.
Thank you. Mr. Bldg?
Ocean Township is definitely a district that teachers want to be in, and I think that's because of the quality of the collaboration and the colleagues that are in our schools. I have been beyond impressed with the teaching staff that I've experienced thus far, and I think that they really do the best that they can. As has been previously stated, I think that communication piece, teachers need to be heard. They need to feel respected. As a teacher in a private school, I've often felt that my voice was not heard. And when I made my presence known and made my opinions known, I felt that the administration was on a completely different page. And I think that creating that whole team, you've got the administrators who are phenomenal in this district, you have amazing teachers, you have parents who should and want to be involved, and they're all a team for all of these kids. It's so important. The teachers are with our kids 6 hours a day. They are such an important part of our kids' lives year after year, and it needs to be acknowledged, certainly, that they can have financial troubles if their salaries don't increase and their benefit costs are going up. That's a very, very difficult financial pill to swallow, especially if they might also be living in a district where their taxes are going up. And that's something that we should be mindful of as certainly a board, but also a community.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fuller?
Thank you. I agree with everything that's been said to this point, that we need to make sure our teachers understand that they are valued and respected. We need to make sure that they're being given the resources, and I don't just mean financial resources, but whatever those resources are to be successful in the classroom, that they're getting the professional development that they need and want in order to be successful. But I also think, too, we have to be mindful in our budget conversations and our general conversations that we don't create this sense of winners and losers, that our taxes are high because of salaries or because of benefits or things like that. We're all part of this together and need to come up with solutions together. So I think we just need to be mindful in our conversations that we make sure that everyone feels valued and not to blame for things that are not necessarily within anyone's control, and make sure that our teachers understand that they are part of this as well, and find additional ways. I think as a board we could as well find additional ways to recognize teacher successes and highlight them more often than we're able to do right now.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman?
So would I have stayed for 38 years if I didn't feel that I was appreciated? Probably not. But over the years, I've mentored many, many student teachers from Monmouth University, and it's very competitive out there. So how can we attract them? Salary, benefits, absolutely. We've lost many staff members to other districts who had more to offer. We have kept and retained many of those new teachers. But then after a few years, they might leave to go to a better district. What is it that attracts them? It can't just be the salary and benefits. Maybe they're not being heard. This is what we're hearing here. I've been on the Educational Council where the board has a group of teachers, and in the past administration here, the superintendent, all we did was watch a PowerPoint, and it turned into more of a gripe session than a real listening session. So I would say that the Educational Council needs to change its tenure and really listen to what teachers have to say. Next, more support for discipline. When there's a problem, discipline needs to be addressed. The teacher shouldn't be the one having to bear the brunt of it. There should be administrative support for whatever disciplinary action has to be taken, and that teacher should feel appreciated, not attacked. So the combination of respect, an Educational Council,
That's hard, isn't it?
It is hard. It is hard. Thank you for being so understanding. Mr. Flutist, your turn.
All right, how do we continue to retain great teachers here? Well, advice, I think, you know, our teachers throughout the district are awesome. You know, and I'm experiencing that as my children move through it. One thing we're doing is constantly reinvesting into the district as a whole. I mean, we're so grateful for the Ocean Township taxpayers. They approved the $28.9 million referendum, and we constantly re-improving. And I'm going to give a little plug, but everybody come up tomorrow night at 6 p.m. to the high school and tour the facilities. We have an open house for everybody. You know, we have 2 brand new black box theaters. We did one in the high school, and then we reinvented one in the middle school. We give them the teachers that and comedy to go in there and create what they want. My daughter loves the class in the middle school. We have a dance studio, we have dance classes, we have new music rooms throughout the school. We're constantly reinvesting, we're constantly upgrading our technology, and the teachers love it. You know, when I first came on the board, we were going through the hiring process, and Denise is my mentor, was explaining it to me. And we talked about how these teachers from other districts were giving up tenure and taking pay cuts to come here for the quality of life. I thought that was crazy. I was like, that's not really happening, but it happens every time. We just had a major hiring blitz this last summer. We had a number of retirees. We had hundreds of applications. I think we had close to 500 applications for one elementary teacher position. I thought it was a glitch, but people want to come here, and they'll give up higher paying salaries, and they'll give up tenure to come here because we're doing something right in Ocean Township. And what we're doing right is the board is going out, finding, retaining the right superintendents and administrators to come here. So this continues on. You know, we have our educational council as mentioned.
Thank you. Thanks. I think we came to the end of that question. The next question will start with Mr. Pausiello. Special education costs are very high. What will you do to contain those costs?
Special education is something that's near and dear to my heart. I have taught special education in numerous different capacities throughout my career, and it's something that is important to me to not drastically reduce any costs in regards to special education. I can't stress the importance of a special education's teachers and the role that they have in children's lives. I know that for me, some of the most rewarding experiences I've had were in an inclusion classroom when I taught here at Ocean, and working closely with special education teachers and students is something that I've done. I'm actually doing it right now. I'm a special education teacher in some capacity in my district, and it's something where I wouldn't advocate for a drastic reduction in costs in any way, because I think it's something that needs to be supported by all of us, and it's so important to me because I have that connection to it. It's something where I would be extremely eager to work with SEPTA in regards to their concerns that they may have for funding or things that they need within the district. And I think that's an organization who does really amazing and wonderful work here, and I would be eager to work closely with them to know what the needs are of the community, but also to couple that with not reducing funding drastically, because I think the impact that that would have on our students would be drastic and would be extremely negative. So I think that we need to keep it as a focus, that special education is extremely important, and that it's not something that we should drastically reduce costs for.
Ms. Tortorella.
You know, in my day job, many of the adults that we serve are recent graduates of public schools in New Jersey. I work in Union County, so it's primarily Union County, Morris County, Somerset County, but the issues are consistent throughout the state. And we've seen students who come through and they are perfectly capable of holding a job, they're perfectly capable of participating in community activities, but the parents are simply lost. They don't know where to go, they don't know what services are available to their students. That used to be something that was done by the high school. That's changed as funding is cut. So I see the repercussions on the other side of it as these individuals, autism is the primary diagnosis that we work with, but there are others. So I've seen what happens when the budget's cut and the services are taken away. And as a community, these are individuals are then home all day and they don't have a focus and they don't have a way to participate and be have a meaningful contribution to society. So as Scott said, I'm in favor of not cutting special ed. I don't think that's an area that should be cut. Some of the grades and some of the classes throughout Ocean have upwards of 30% of the kids receiving some sort of special education services. So we're not talking about you're cutting for 1 or 2 kids or all the money's going for 1 or 2 kids. We're talking about upwards of a third of our kids need some type of these services. So something else is happening, and we need to look at a holistic approach on how to address that other than cutting funding.
Thank you. Mr. Bldg?
The reason that we're here is to put all of the students first, and that includes our special education population. I personally believe that you can't put a price tag on special ed, as has been stated before, and I believe it very, very strongly. If you cut services there, the consequences are going to be extreme. These children need our help, they need our support, and we can absolutely give it to them, and we should. It's their right, and it's our responsibility to provide that for them. That being said, the teachers need the support in the classroom to be able to do it. They have worked hard to get the degrees and the certifications. We as a district need to give them the support that they need. We need to give them the correct training to be able to handle all of the different situations that come. The number of students who require special ed services is not going down, and there are a lot of children who need special services who might not have an IEP or a 504. And that's something that we really need to be mindful of. Not every child has been diagnosed, not every child has the supports in place in a legal sense, and all teachers need to be prepared to help any child that comes in with any kind of issue, whether it be autism to anxiety to any kind of focus issues. So that's not an area that I would enforce or support cutting any funds at all.
Thank you. Ms. Fuller?
Thank you. I mean, I almost disagree with the premise of the question, and I hate that every time we talk about special education, it's always about the cost. And I don't think, I don't think we'd ever want anyone from our special education community to feel like they were just a cost that needs to be contained. We need to put the needs of the student first and figure out what will allow him or her to succeed, and then figure it out from there. Engage the parents, engage the teachers, but not focus solely on the cost whenever it comes to the conversation of special education. I mean, there are some things in the past budget in terms of privatizing aids and things like that, which I would never support. But I think we have to have a more holistic conversation about special education like we do with educating all of our children, that there's balance, but it should never come at the cost of the quality of the education that we're providing to that student or to any student. I think one thing that we can continue as a community to advocate for is having conversations again with our elected representatives at the state level about how the state can help communities with some of the more extraordinary costs that are associated with special education, so that perhaps there could be assistance that comes to communities that can help us deal with it. But that being said, I don't think it should ever come at the cost of making any of these children feel like they're a cost burden, or the resources that they need is something that is something that should be cut before anything else.
Gilman?
Our district has managed to retain many of our special ed students in-house because of our outstanding special ed program. Where other districts might send a student out at the cost of $80,000 tuition, we've managed to develop a life skills and work study program. These programs I've witnessed firsthand, and we have students working in our community supporting themselves, if you will, learning life skills up till age 21. The Tommy Hilfiger Company has partnered with Ocean Township to employ one of our students out at the outlets. We are hoping to expand that program even more. Now, if Hilfiger will do it, there are other companies who will also put up grant money or help aid in keeping our special ed students till age 21 and learning skills in a kind of a workshop setting. That being said, our teachers need money for materials in the life skills program. If any of you have not toured those classrooms, you should. There's everything in there from kitchen, all the culinary skills that they might need to use, to computers, everything so that they can become productive students, citizens, when they do leave our district after age 21. So our special ed program is outstanding in every way, and our teachers are a big part of it.
Thank you. Mr. Flutist.
Could you just repeat the question?
Special education costs are very high. What would you do to contain them?
Well, there's nothing we can do to contain them. I mean, it's, as it's been said and repeated here, this skill, and still a lot of my things on the life skills. We educate our students up to age 21, you know. That fall into that category. Ocean Township schools are known for our great special education schools. A number of parents move here for the special education services. It's true, our population, student population is declining. Our special education population is increasing. There is additional cost with that. You know, we don't sit around at the budget time and try and cut it. It's state mandated. It's a recommendation from the administration on where we're going with it. What we do, we have specialized buses, specialized classrooms, specialized teachers that come in. The only thing we really get to talk about, as Ms. Fuller said, is about the number of aides that are coming on, how we're going to roll them into the district, when they're needed. Sometimes it's an estimate from what we try to forecast for enrollment, but there's never been a discussion since my time on the board of how to cut it or reduce anything, so I just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Karlamas?
Yes, I'm basically going to repeat everything that everyone else has said. It's tough being the last one, but we do have a very strong special education program here in Ocean Township, and personally I believe in our program, and it is an important part of our budget, and fortunately we are mandated to provide for all of our special education students here, no matter what it is that they need. And I feel that we do that. I too am a huge proponent of our instructional assistants. I think they do an amazing job. They are people that our students can connect to, feel a part of our district. Sometimes they could be their only friend in the district, and I think that they add to our program substantially. So yeah, there's really not much that we can do to cut costs. And personally, I'm okay with that. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take a risk because I'm not sure what the answer to this question is. But we'll see if it works. Yeah, right. It'll start with no, it's a perfectly legitimate question, but I don't know what is happening in Ocean Township. What is the demographic trend in Ocean currently, and what actions would you recommend to address it? I would assume this is talking about increasing or decreasing student population.
So I'm going to speak to that question the best that I can. I'm not 100% familiar with the population demographics. I do know that one of the reasons we selected Ocean Township was because it is a diverse community and it is an inclusive community. As some people have said, the student count I know at Wayside is going down. There was some redistricting, if you will, last year or 2 years ago where certain neighborhoods are being routed to other schools than Wayside, and I have seen a decline. I know that Wayside has one less classroom for incoming kindergartners than it did 2 years ago. There used to be 6, now there are 5. If the question is about more specific as far as ethnicity, I'm not really in a position to answer that question.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the...
Sure, to the best of my ability, I can answer that I do know that there is a huge diverse population in Ocean Township. That's, again, like Natalie said, one of the reasons why we moved here. I also know that there's a significant number of non-English speaking folks in our town, and one thing that we as a district can do is provide things in multiple languages and have translators and reach out to those communities and invite them to the table. And a lot of people in Ocean are also not native born. That should probably also be noted as well. And I think that in terms of the students, certainly in the 5 years that I've lived in Ocean, the student population has gone down. And I think that there is an increase for specific needs and specific programs that is certainly present. And as you have less students in the school, it creates a very challenging situation. So again, that's to the best of my ability how I can answer it.
Thank you. Ms. Fuller?
Thank you, and I too hope that I'm getting to the points that the person asking the question is looking for. We do have declining enrollment, or enrollment is down, I should say. I think that's a fact. But I can say You know, on the block where I live in Wayside, you know, more than half the houses on the street right now don't have school-age children, right? There are people who live there, raise their children, and they don't have school-age children currently. But as neighborhoods turn over and houses are sold and new people and families move in, there will be more children coming in. So I think we could see this probably very likely as a part of a cycle of increasing and decreasing enrollment. But speaking to the diversity of the community, if we're talking about other sorts of diversity, I think obviously Ocean is increasing in terms of its diversity, and we talked a lot about this at Wayside. We've done some things in terms of having an outreach committee, that is working with people from different nations who speak different languages and figuring out how that we as a school, through the PTA, can communicate better with the families and reach them in their language that they're most comfortable speaking. And also recently saw that at the high school, they're going to be launching an ESL council and asking parents who speak different languages to come and participate in that and start speaking to the administration at the high school about how the school can better be communicating with them. So I certainly think that that's an example that we could translate to the other schools as well, as that gets started and we see how it works out there. And I think as a board, you know, we learn things by watching who's coming to our meetings. It's wonderful to see all of you here tonight. Unfortunately, we're not usually speaking to as many people. And I wonder, oh, okay, I'm running out of time. So
Thanks, Ms. Fuller. Ms. Gilman?
When I was an advisor for FCCLA, I went to several state conferences. This is a family, consumer, and career group. And I witnessed thousands of students in an auditorium watching programs that champion diversity and acceptance. I think we should be doing more at each grade level in conjunction with the PTA to lure some of these talented people who put these programs together to promote diversity and acceptance in a positive way. I remember when the high school used to have a whole international day. And yes, it involved lots of rescheduling, but everybody came to eat foods from all over the world. Students wore costumes that were part of their heritage. And that was another example of promoting acceptance and diversity. Expanding the ELL program, I'm glad to hear that the board is hoping to do that as well. One of my student teachers is currently in the high school, and she's young and energetic and ready to embrace the diversity and acceptance. But along with that comes fear. Many of the parents are fearful of coming to a meeting like this. So I believe that going down to their community, wherever it may be, and launching things on a basic level to encourage them to participate in the education of their children would make them feel more comfortable.
Thank you. Mr. Flutist?
Thank you. Great question. We had launched, we're in year 2 of our strategic plan. We had addressed this issue as a board in the community. We had it open. We had months of meetings with this. We discussed this thoroughly. We had a great turnout. We had 80 plus folks at each meeting. We had it at different locations. And we had to hire translation services for multiple members. We had Portuguese translators, Spanish translators, and French Creole translators at these strategic meetings. We addressed that. We addressed the changing demographics overall, decline in population, increase in special education population. We also tracked religious holidays. It may sound kind of silly, but religious holidays are exempt from, you know, the required mandate. And we discuss that every few months with Dr. Stankwitz at our monthly meeting to kind of see what the trends are, who's taking off what holidays, when sometimes, you know, pure ignorance, I didn't know there was a religious holiday that day and what it was, and we learned about it. So we are tracking these changes. You know, it ebbs and flows. Years ago, we added on the 5th grade wing because our population was at 4,600 students. You know, now it's dropped down. But instead of trying to close that wing, we expanded our pre-K program. We're always changing, always reinventing ourselves, but we have our finger on the pulse of the current board members. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Carlamas?
Yeah, I'm going to take this answer a little differently than I guess everyone else, because maybe the person that was asking the question is asking, what are we going to do about the decreasing population here in Ocean Township? Currently, you know, and I know it was mentioned here earlier, we are losing some students to some of our outside schools or magnet schools, and we're hoping that our academy program will become very popular. Currently, it is very popular. It is at full capacity. We have begun our Academy School in Finance, which has done very well. Last year was the first year, and the students that were participating in it absolutely loved it. This year we have our Technology Academy, which from what I hear is doing very well. And next year we're looking to institute the Performing Arts Academy, so we're hoping that our academy structure will keep our students here in school. Recently we also opened up our enrollment to other districts, so we're hoping to maybe bring in some students from other schools who, you know, feel that Ocean is the place to be. So we're hoping that that, you know, kicks in and students start coming in. So that's.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Mr. Pasiello on this question.
Diversity is something that I think in this town we should be proud of. I think it is important to get different perspectives from different groups of people, and I think that's something that is hugely beneficial. For me, I actually just happened to have looked at some of the demographic numbers earlier today, and I know that the Caucasian population is about 60%, and Hispanic and African American population is about 40%. So that is a large part of our district, is different groups who are represented. And one of the things that I would advocate for is teachers of various ethnicities being welcomed, not only welcomed, but hired within our district, because I think that can have a huge impact on students. And just in general, I think that sending home announcements, either through Backpack, the online system, or using paperwork in a different language or in a language predominantly featured. That way all parents feel like they're part of the process. And also making sure that paper goes home from time to time for people who may not have access to computers at home. So while I can't speak to the declining numbers, I can certainly say that our diversity in town, I think, is something to be proud of. And I think that it should be cultivated and looked at as a positive as opposed to any other way to look at it.
Thank you. We have lots of good questions here, but we're running out of time. So we're going to have one final question before we go to closing statements. And this we'll be starting with Ms. DeFilia and moving down the row. And it's a pretty much of a good wrap-up question. What do you see as the biggest challenge to the school district over the next 5 years?
I think that there are so many different challenges that we face as a district and so many different areas that need to be looked at, but we also have to be able to pay for those. We've lost a lot of funding from the state, we've lost Lock Harbor, and I think that the focus really needs to be on being mindful of the strain on the taxpayer without taking away from the students. Looking for alternative revenue solutions, shared services with the town, with neighboring districts, getting creative with the budget, and not taking away from any programming that the students truly need. That needs versus wants mentality is probably going to need to come into play, and unfortunately in those situations, difficult decisions do need to be made. There are a lot of hot topic issues that need to be dealt with, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. We have to be able to pay for the training for our teachers, we have to be able to pay for the transportation for our students, we have to be able to pay for the books that they use in schools, and pay for keeping the buildings open and functioning. And that's something that the board is responsible and accountable for.
Thank you. Ms. Fuller?
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I know that Gino came in, so if you was welcome down.
We had made a decision that we were going to keep the seat open for 45 minutes. I'm happy to have you come up if it doesn't bother the candidates and do a closing statement if you like.
No, I think we said no.
Okay, that's fine. All right, thank you. I'm sorry, had we not started with Ms. Fuller?
No, I went.
Yes.
Thank you. I agree with what Lexi said as well. I think there are many challenges and many opportunities that the district is going to face in the coming years, but I think so much of it does boil down to the decisions that we're going to have to make to be able to provide the education that we want to for our students, make sure our teachers have the resources that they need, but also keep our community affordable for everyone who lives here currently and everyone who would like to make this their home. I think another challenge that we will face is continuing to maintain our sense of community, and I think for us it's an opportunity to try and find ways to engage our community more, make more people feel like they're invested in this process and can help share this conversation with us. I've heard so many good ideas here just tonight from my candidate colleagues that I think could spur so many great conversations, and I'm sure so many people, and in so many of the questions that we're not going to be able to get to, there are so many more good ideas. So I think we should find a way to engage the community more, take the meetings out like we're going to do tomorrow night, invite our community in to see our school, have the meeting someplace other than here, find other ways to engage people. Maybe it is having translators at our meetings. Maybe it's providing childcare because you can't always get a babysitter, or maybe can't afford to have a babysitter to come to a meeting, but you have something important to say or to share. So continuing to have different ideas to engage our community so that as we make these difficult decisions, we know that we are reflecting the will of the community and that everyone's part of those conversations with us.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman?
In addition to the loss of funding, one of my greatest concerns is the mental health and well-being of students and staff. The stress level, the anxiety has increased for everyone. The teachers who have to worry about monitoring their students and making sure they're meeting everybody's needs, that they are addressing the standards that the state continues to change, whether it's for testing and graduation. And then, of course, the students worrying about, will they get into college? Will they pass the SAT, the ACT, or whatever else, the PSAT, that they need to pass in order to move on to the next level. So I think mental health issues are a real concern, and that we need to focus our resources on that for the future. If we ever hope to see a decrease in school violence and students who don't turn to drugs and alcohol, we definitely need to look at the area of mental health. Diversity, also another area that we've discussed tonight, and one that needs to have doors opened in a more welcoming way by involving the community in everything that we do. I wonder if our community knows about tomorrow night's invitation to the high school to tour the new facilities. I wonder if people who perhaps don't read an English newspaper even know about that opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Flutist.
Thank you. There's one issue that we're going to face uphill battle in the next 5 years, and that's funding. State imposed a 2% cap a few years ago, which we can all agree in theory is a great idea, but at the same time, they've continued to cut our state funding. In the last 10 years, we've lost $4 million from the state. This year, they did it again. They initially told us they were going to give us $400,000 in additional aid. They turned around and cut our budget by $600,000 at the $12. We prepare our budget in January, February timeframe. We submit it to the county by March. July 13th, they came back and slashed our budget again to $600,000. We were dealt another blow 2 years ago when the state allowed Lock Harbor to break away from our consolidated school district and take $2.1 million. Now, a lot of people might not think that concerns them, but now we're starting to see Monmouth Regional going to be broken apart, possibly Toms River, and some other districts that are consolidated or regionalized. Nobody wants to pay school taxes, and I understand that. They want to pay per student, but it affects all of us. It affects all New Jersey residents. Somebody has to pick that up. Ocean Township is overfunded by our local taxpayers and underfunded by the state. Myself and Mrs. Parlamas, we had multiple meetings with our legislators since the beginning of this year trying to address this. We were promised that we're going to get more money, It hasn't come to fruition yet. We're talking about regionalizing the non-operating school districts such as Lock Harbor, Interlaken, Allenhurst, and Deal, and consolidating to one regional school district, bring in those ratables. There should be no reason why our neighbors that live across the street have half the taxes that we pay to still get the same education. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parlamas?
Yes, I'm going to repeat a lot of the same things that Mr. Flutist said. The biggest challenge, I mean, we do have a lot of challenges, but the biggest challenge I have to say is the loss of state aid again. Like Mr. Flutist mentioned, we lost approximately $607,000 this year, and over the next 6 years, we may be losing the exact same amount, which puts an extreme burden, excuse me, not only on our students because they're not receiving the things that they need, but to you, the taxpayer. Currently, we are speaking with our senator and our congresspeople. We also signed the Education Adequacy Report, which asks our governor to review our funding formula. Our funding formula states that Ocean Township is an overfunded district. Meanwhile, all the costs are rising, and we haven't seen any state aid since 2008, 2009. Other small things that I'd like to mention, they're not small, they're very, very important. I think we need to keep the morale of our teachers high. I think that's extremely important. And make sure that we as a board can make sure that our students are future ready. They're ready to go on to college and beyond. And I think that is a very challenging task. And I think that's something else that we need to pay close attention to.
Thank you. Mr. Cosiello?
Thank you. One of the major issues I think facing Ocean Township going into the future is increasing the amount of involvement from all stakeholders. I've often said that a third of educating a child comes from parents, a third comes from the community, and a third comes from the school. Each of those elements is important, but sometimes we don't have each of those elements participating in the process. So I would advocate for encouraging parents to be more involved, not only in the education of their children, but also in the inner workings of the school district. Increased participation by parents, I think, would be a huge step in the right direction, and I think it's something to really advocate for people not only to come to board meetings, but also, as it's been mentioned in the past, to televise them and to kind of make it more known as to what's going on. Also, as a teacher, I have to say the workload for teachers keeps increasing. The amount of time that they spend working on lessons is often the lowest amount of time. I can speak for myself. It's often the lowest amount of time that I spend in my profession or in my career. So the workload for teachers is increasing, and also for students. It was mentioned previously that anxiety is something that is facing third grade students in regards to taking a standardized test. So I think we need to reevaluate the things that we're valuing, and I think we need to really focus on, similar to teachers and workload, is retaining young teachers. The turnover rate for young teachers in the profession is extremely high, and the reason why is underappreciation and just making sure that they're appreciated.
Thank you. Ms. Tortorella.
Thank you. Many of the major issues facing our community are no different than other communities across the nation. Many of these challenges stem from issues related to mental health, and I believe that all goes back to communication. Communication is an area that I think is a huge weakness in this district. I don't see a lot of transparency, and I don't see us reaching out to populations and communities. We say, oh, no one comes to the board meetings, but if you work and can't get there, or if you're in school on Tuesday nights because you're a single mom and you can't get there, we've got to go where the people are. Coming full circle and educating the whole child will solve a lot of these issues. And I'm not trying to minimize them, but as our kids get older, they become more vulnerable, and as they get older, we communicate less with families. We've got to keep the communication going. We've got to address these issues with lack of engagement. And I think one of the areas that we could utilize more that we don't are the PTAs. Moms mobilize, that's what we do. We know how to get stuff done. And I know the Wayside PTA, when you tell us we need playground equipment, we fundraise, and Wayside's getting new playground equipment this year. So we've got to use the resources that we have. Yes, funding is an issue, and it always has been and it always will be. But what are the other resources that we have? And I believe that that is our people and our parents.
Thank you. Thank you all. We've come to the closing statements. I'll just review the order that we selected earlier. We're going to begin with Janice Fuller, then Irene Gilman, Denise Parlamos, Michael Flutist, Natalie Tortorello, Scott Cosiello, and finish with Catherine DeFilio.
We're not going to let Dino. You're not going to let Dino do it since we heard his opening?
No, we had set a time of 45 minutes into the program. Thank you. So I will turn this over to Ms. Fuller for your closing statement. And that's a 90-minute closing statement.
90 minutes? 90 minutes.
I haven't spoken on it for 90 minutes. I got 2 kids, so I'll talk. 90 seconds?
Thank you. So thank you to the League for providing this opportunity to discuss all the critical issues for our district, and thank you sincerely to everyone who came out tonight. It may sound odd, but honestly, when I found out there were this many people running for the board, I was actually happy that this many people are willing to put themselves forward as part of this process and are willing to be candidates and are willing to potentially serve on this board, because it is a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice, but it also is tremendously rewarding. You've heard our district faces tremendous challenges, but we have a lot of opportunities. We're a sought-after community because of our quality education experience, but we can't be satisfied with what we've achieved. We must remain dynamic, finding ways to improve and ensure that we're providing the best education possible to all of our students, our current students and our future students, and that we're providing our teachers with the resources and support that they need to succeed. We must do all of this while keeping the community affordable for our current residents, those who have students in the school and those who do not, and those who want to make their home there here one day. I'm proud of the work I've done on the board. I believe I could be an asset and be able to continue to serve. And going forward, I commit to be a responsible steward of the taxpayer resources and redouble our efforts to find shared services and other ways to save money, but never to lose sight of the primary mission of the district, which is to provide a quality education to all of our students. I thank you for your time tonight, and I ask for your support on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Gilman next.
During my tenure at Ocean, I implemented many Board of Ed policies and experienced many paradigm shifts in the educational process. I would like to add my experience and expertise to help establish future board policies. For example, how can we balance increased use of technology with improved mental health and well-being? Bullying has increased, and teachers find themselves in the challenging position of meeting the diverse needs of their students, monitoring safe use of technology, and implementing changing state testing standards. My experience would be a valuable resource in addressing these concerns. With a master's degree in the humanities, I would encourage the continued collaboration of the arts and theater programs for all of our students as a way of promoting acceptance and diversity. Finally, we must look at the future of Ocean Township schools. Tax-weary residents, senior citizens on a fixed income like me, students and staff members all deserve the benefits of a strong, thriving school system. A difficult task ahead, but one for which I am prepared. Let's add the voice of an educator to the Ocean Township Board of Education. Please look for Irene Gilman on the November 6th ballot, and remember you can vote individually. I have been and always will be an educator for education. Thanks for coming to this evening's forum.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Parlamas.
Thank you all again for allowing me to be here this evening. I also appreciate all who came out to meet the candidates. For those who do not know me, I am a graduate of Ocean Township High School. I am also a graduate of Rutgers University with a degree in journalism and nutrition. Currently, I am serving as the Board of Education Vice President, as well as Chairman of Personnel and member of other committees. I also am President of the Board of Trustees of Ocean's Community Hope Fund, as well as serving in other organizations in town. People ask me, why 17 years? There are a number of reasons, but most importantly is that what happens here truly does matter to me. Over the course of my tenure, I feel that I have made a difference by helping to initiate things like shared services, increasing grant revenues, instituting full-day kindergarten, starting the academy structure at the high school, and a host of other things. As the longest-standing member, I feel that I offer much stability to a board that constantly is experiencing change. In addition, I would like to continue the implementation of the Class 2 Officer Initiative, as well as continuing our work in order to save our taxpayers' money. But most importantly, I absolutely love what I do. This journey has been nothing short of incredible for me. In my 17 years, I have seen vast change in almost every area of this district, and some of it has been extremely rewarding, and some of it quite frustrating. Each of these times have made me a better board member. I am grateful to this township for allowing me to be a part of this journey. This year, I ask that you please support me and my team, Better Schools Together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Flutist?
Thank you. I would again like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's debate. I want to thank my running mates, Janice Fuller, Denise Parlamas, and Gino DeLomo, fellow candidates, members of the public, and those at home watching, and for participating in this debate. I'm very proud of our schools, administration, staff, teachers, and parents. Together we ensure our children have the foundation for a successful life. We will continue to be good stewards of the taxpayers and ensure that the money is spent wisely. I hope I earned your vote tonight. I remind you to vote on November 6th for myself, Michael Flutist, Janice Fuller, Denise Parlamas for the 3-year seats, and Mr. Gino DeLomo for the 1-year seat. We are better schools together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cottarello.
Thank you to the other candidates and the audience for being here this evening. The number of people who care about our kids is part of what makes Ocean special. Together, we must teach and nurture the whole child and not simply aim for good test scores. The cuts to our funding are not going away, and as the COO of a nonprofit, I'm used to budget cuts. Just like schools, my agency is funded with a set amount of money that must be stretched to meet a variety of priorities. This is what I do every single day. Find efficiencies that allow for unexpected demands while balancing the needs versus the wants of stakeholders. If elected, my goals will be to increase communication between the district and families, to broaden our focus to include more civic, career, and life skills, and to foster a holistic approach to student education. We need our school system to produce graduates that are well-rounded, responsible citizens. Sometimes what looks expensive on paper can actually save money in the long run. We must be innovative in how we use these limited resources, and we must find efficiencies. With the school system already performing well, we are poised to take it to the next level. It is time that we have educators on the Board of Education. I am an educator, and I'm really good at budgets. I can do this job well, and I hope that I have earned your confidence and your vote on November 6th. Thank you again for attending.
Thank you. Mr. Causiello.
Thank you all for attending tonight's forum, and I agree with Ms. Fuller that this is a testament to how much Ocean cares. Increasing school security is a major issue facing the education community. We must work with parents, students, and the community members to ensure that all options are explored in order to keep our children safe at school. To this end, training our middle school and high school staff members in suicide prevention and mental health issues can be proactive in preventing tragedy in our town and to help combat the opioid epidemic facing our children. Our children should be taught 21st century skills to make them job ready in this ever-changing world. Skills in communicating, collaborating, critical thinking, and creativity will benefit our children and help them to become productive members of society. I will watch to ensure tax dollars are spent wisely on worthwhile and necessary parts of your child's education. I am a taxpayer, teacher, and parent of school-aged children, which means that I am in a unique position to help find the delicate balance between being responsible with our tax dollars and keeping the best interests of our children at the forefront. Together we can work to find alternative sources of revenue. In my experience as a teacher, I have found that communication and transparency are two key elements to encouraging parents to be involved in the education of children. This is a quality that I have brought to my teaching practice and will continue to do so on the Board of Education. Working closely with SEPTA to ensure that the needs of our special education population and students and their families are met. Listening and talking to parents, a monthly meeting to listen to concerns is something that I would be passionate about. Thank you, Scott Pausiello.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Develia.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming tonight. This has really been very insightful and really just awesome that so many people are interested and involved in the community. I'd like to begin with a quote from the book, Wonder. Don't just go with the flow, take some dares to the rapids. I've volunteered for the PTA, I've advocated for student needs, and it's time to step up and do more. As a parent of a child with high anxiety and ADHD, it's apparent that we have to do more in terms of awareness, teacher training, and supports for social-emotional wellness. School safety is both physical and emotional. Bus cameras tell you who did what, but they don't prevent the incident from happening. Armed officers in schools may provide aid during a crisis, but they don't prevent the pain leading up to it. We need proactive rather than reactive solutions. Parents have to know what's happening. We need to make meetings accessible, broadcast them. Information is posted in so many different locations and it's confusing. Standardizing the communication process on a district level will certainly help. Awareness and acknowledgement that there are many in town who pay taxes but don't utilize the school system is also important. An open table discussion, acknowledgement, invitation to meetings would really go a long way. The key to everything is increased transparent communication. The board should continue working with the council who broadcast their meetings to conduct budget presentations and discuss increasing shared services. The state's ensured that our taxes are going down, so the responsibility and accountability now lay here. We have to put students first, and we have to work together to find proactive solutions. and I hope to be part of that solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now you've met your candidates, including Mr. Delomo, who is here, and they've done an exemplary job tonight. So let's give them a big round. I want you to applaud yourselves too. You've been a great audience. You've been very patient. This was a long night, very meaningful night. Remind you again, Election Day is November 6th.